Hello and welcome to my first ever doll custom. Today we're going to be customising this Kiyomi Hauntley doll from the Monster High lineup. I'll be giving you the prices of materials as the video goes on to give you an idea of the cost. As is with my first custom, I thought it was best to start with sketching ideas that I had for a dress, as I already knew that this is what I wanted to do. So I came up with this ruffled and pleated skirt idea. I had already pre-bought the fabric for this project, so I knew exactly what I was going to be using. I also looked around my room for other things that I could use for this custom, and I found this paper flower crown which I thought could be used somewhere along the line. So I wanted to get the clothes out of the way because I knew that this would be the most challenging part for me, so I stripped off the factory clothes and began to plan out the outfit. Very incorrectly. So I sketched around the body, added 2mm to the outline and cut out the basic shape of the top of the dress as I was going to make the skirt separate. Here I used scrap fabric to make a prototype as I didn't want to waste my real fabric. It was a little bit pricey to kind of waste on a prototype, so you know. I hand stitched the two pieces together and yeah, this didn't fit at all. I even tried to use pins to see if there was just excess fabric I could pin elsewhere, but it really wasn't working. So for the second prototype, I decided to unpick the original clothes to use as an actual guide, and it worked a lot better. I got these three pieces that fit much better to the doll, and it even added Velcro. This was the first and only top part of the dress I made with the real fabric, and I was happy with the fit, except for the fact the bottom was sticking out, so I sewed a piece of elastic on to pull it down and flatten it out. Next, I decided to make the skirt. Using the same fabric, which is cotton by the way, I cut out a long rectangle and hemmed it down the bottom of it for a more finished look. This was the only hemming I did on the whole outfit, which is a mistake in itself because the top part of the dress has frayed a lot since making the video. Oh well, you live and learn I suppose. Next, I used what I believe is called a tack stitch, where you just go in and out on the fabric in a straight line, and I did this to pull the fabric together to make that sort of pleated design. I didn't film this part for some reason, but I sewed down some larger pleats to force them to stay in place. Alternatively, you could iron them down, but I thought sewing would be easier. I started by sewing down the Velcro, but it was a pain in the arse, so I just glued them down using this cheap generic fabric glue, which strangely smelt and felt like super glue. I also used this organza bag to make a sort of petticoat to go under the skirt to make it poof out a bit more. So hands down, this was the part that I was looking forward to the most out of the whole custom. So I curled the hair and boil washed it using straws and bobby pins, and this took a good day to dry. I could have sped up the process by using hairdryer, but I just didn't. I have no idea why. I unpicked the curls to give it more volume, as you could also see some bald patches which I didn't want. I also used a comb to brush out the ends a little bit. So I used the lighter front section of the hair to pin back and also to plait to give it a bit more, I don't know, decoration or something. I don't know what I was doing. I used the skirt to separate the hair so it was easier to style as it kept getting tangled and it was really annoying, and I kept pulling in strands of hair which I didn't want to use. So I used some sewing pins to pin the plait down so it lay a bit flatter against the head because it kept just popping up and it looked a bit stupid. Next it was time for the infamous head burrito. I used the same scrap fabric to pin back the hair to keep it out of the way, as I was going to be using acrylic paint for the face up. I used nail varnish remover with acetone in it, and it took me a painfully long amount of time to remove the factory paint, so just go out and buy acetone, it just lifts off the face and it's so much easier. I have no form of sealant for the face, but I still wanted to use watercolour pencils to give myself a better guideline to work from. The only colour that was working was the black pencil, and even that wasn't great, so I switched out for a 2B graphite pencil, and this worked a lot better, and it was so much easier to remove with a rubber. After I sketched out the eyebrows and the eyes, it was time for the acrylics. As I'm editing, I realised that I should have watered down the acrylics in order to prevent the eyes from looking really bumpy, but I didn't, so they look really bumpy. I knew the eyebrows were going to be my number one enemy, so I did them first, and I was really surprised that I didn't need to wipe them off and do 4,000 attempts. It only took me the one. I made a very light grey colour for the sclera so that the eyes didn't completely pop out and look out of place. I later on added some slightly darker shades for some more toning. So I originally planned for this doll to have some green eyes to contrast with all the blue, and I thought they would look too out of place. So I mixed some blue, which I thought would look too blue, so instead I thought some subtle pink eyes would look better. My camera turned off halfway through the face up, but I was taking pictures as I was going along, luckily. So I added some tone to her eyes to give them more depth. I also added eyeliner, the iris, and some of that anime eye shine to make her look quite cute. I thought she looked melancholy, so I added some glitter on her cheeks, which looked like some oddly shaped sort of tears. And with that, she's finished. I decided to call her Sapphire. I thought it was a fitting name considering the colour scheme. As a few last details, I also added a braid in her hair, painted her nails and gave her a few rings.